Hello and welcome to Council Action. I'm Russell Inman, and joining us today from Ward 8 is Councilman Mark Schmidt. Mark, how are you doing today?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing well. You know, the heat has really arrived. It's the end of summer, and I know walking into the council chambers tonight was a much different feeling than it's been all summer long. Let's
a little warm out.
Little warm out. So that maybe that led to the shorter meeting for us.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty thin agenda for the most part, and we'll start off with a second reading. There were two second readings on tonight's agenda, and you'll be able to go into a little bit more. But they died for a lack of a second, and we don't see that very often, that the bill makes it this far and then doesn't have any interest. So the first one, Mark, if you could talk to us just a bit about. Sure. It was an appropriation for $10,000 from the General Revenue Fund, professional services. This purpose was to fund an independent salary survey for the positions that are held in the city of Florissant. Didn't get any further tonight because no second.
It died for lack of a second. The reason being, the council discussed this at our work session last week, and there really wasn't much support for it. In fact, there weren't 5 votes for it. In talking to some of the department heads and administration, it was determined that a lot of this could be done in-house, and there wasn't really a need to spend the money and go outside for outside services. So it's not that we're not going to do it, it's just they want to do it more in-house and save a little bit of money.
Makes sense. It's an expense that could be kind of pulled away. Well, the second one, Mark, was an ordinance for a utility tax decrease. I guess right now the utility tax for the city of Florissant is 7%. 7%. This was looking to take it down to 5%. How did this come to be and then, again, kind of go away?
Well, again, this bill was discussed at our work session again last week and again didn't receive enough support. Mr. Lee took it upon himself to bring this up with the idea that the economy's been turning around a little bit, that kind of revenues are up a little bit, that we would be in a position to do this. However, in looking at your finances, to reduce the taxes, just to give you an idea, to reduce this utility tax by the 2% would cost the city a little over $2 million, wow, which is about 7–8% of our overall budget. Okay, so now you've got to figure out, okay, where am I going to reduce that 7% or 8% out of the city's budget? Well, so you would go to all department heads and say, okay, you need to cut 7 or 8% out of your budgets. Well, so, okay, let's just take the police department for an example. You call the police chief and say, okay, we're going to take 8%, 7 to 8% out of your budget. What's that going to cost? Well, he flat out told us that'd probably cost us 5 to 6 police officers on the street. All right. And corresponding cars. Well, okay, now wait a minute. Now all of a sudden that hits home.
Sure, sure.
Now to give you an idea, let's put it even in simpler terms. If the average homeowner in the city of Florissant spends it costs the average homeowner about $80 to $100 a month for this utility tax. That's, as a general rule, that's about what the average homeowner is spending. Which sounds like a lot. It is, but you're also getting a lot of services for that. So 2% out of that, which I haven't done the math, but let's see, 2% out of, should it be 30? Probably be about 40, probably be about $30 out of that amount. So out of that $30 that you would save a month, is it worth having 5 or 6 or 7 police officers off the street?
Mm-hmm. And that's just one department.
And that's just one department. So now so now we're going to take out maybe a couple of people out of the parks department so we don't cut the grasses as often. Now let's take a couple of people out of the streets department so now we don't pave the streets, we don't get street repairs done as often. It could affect snow plowing down the road. You know, now we don't have the manpower to man all the plows. So instead of it, you know, being able to plow the streets in maybe a few hours, it might take more of a half a day. You know, it's those kinds of things. Once you start really looking at it and thinking, okay, well, that's fine, but something's got to give. I mean, that means that's revenue that's not coming into the city, so it's going to affect everything. So, and that's the general reason why it really didn't have much support. I think what you'll see is, I don't think this issue is dead. I think what it is it's going to be a good topic for discussions as we go on. I think everybody's of the attitude that we'd love to do it. It's just we've got to find the timings right, and we got to make sure we're on stable ground in order to do it. And I think that's all it was. At this point in time, I don't think we're on stable enough ground in order to do it that everybody felt comfortable doing it. Now, could it happen maybe next year? Sure. It's something we're going to continue to look at. So,
good. Thanks for that explanation, Mark.
Sure.
The last one was an ordinance for a special use permit for Fat Boys Barbecue. That one passed tonight. So we'll see another restaurant come into town.
Oh yeah, this was we held that public hearing was at our last meeting. Gentleman came up and they want to open that restaurant at 300 St. Ferdinand, which is the old Goki Produce, yes. And then it was a fish store after that, so fish market. So it'll be a nice little restaurant. I'm kind of looking forward to it. We kind of that's one area I think we're lacking a little bit in the city of Florissant is a good barbecue place. Because we're all talking about, we all remember the old A&M barbecue up there on Lindbergh, and everybody misses it, you know. So it'll be nice to have a good barbecue place back in the city again.
Mark, for first readings, it started off with a golf course, office supplies for additional printer supplies for the golf course. So not looking for money for a golf cart, just basic supplies.
Just supplies. All we did was move money from one account into another account to help fund some printer supplies and a printer. So yeah, that's relatively easy.
And the next two first readings passed tonight with 3 votes. The ordinance approving the Community Development Block Grant budget for 2014. Tell us what goes into the block grant.
That really goes into a lot. This is the money that we receive from the federal government for community development block grants. It's our community money that we can use for a number of things. It has gone down over the years. It used to be up in the upper 200,000 range, and now it's down to 200. And I think this one is 214,000. Majority of it is used for our home improvement programs, those grants that people can apply for. And I think we have some money that goes into the Jamestown writing program, therapy program. So, but majority of the funds we use for the home improvement funds. And basically all this tonight's bill is basically just moving the money from basically moving it into our budget so that they can actually start spending it and using it. So they can accept the applications, and as the applications are get approved, they can actually take money and do it. So all we're doing is really, this has already been approved. They had the public hearing, so it's just moving the money into the budget, into their budget accounts, so they can start using it.
Very good. And we had an ordinance for the schedule of court costs. Schedule A, by amending a new subsection. This allows for the collection of a $10 fee to be used for the land assemblage, purchase, construction, maintenance, upkeep of a municipal courthouse. Yeah,
this is one that the legislature of the state of Missouri passed this past year to allow cities to collect a $10 fee, additional $10 court fee that can be used to buy land, to purchase land, to construct, maintain, and upkeep municipal court building, which kind of hits home here a little bit because our courts are outgrowing our facilities, this is one that they use, as well as the other building. The courts are just getting so large, our dockets are getting so big that they're outgrowing this space. So we are in the process of looking for a new space, larger space. Right now they're using JFK. The courts are being held out of the JFK Community Center just because they need the room. So it makes it a little difficult because now you're transferring things from one building to another building to do that. So this hopefully will help in our efforts in order to do that. So it's going to allow us to collect that extra $10 court fee and tuck it away in a fund, and then when we assemble enough and we get clarification on what we can actually do with it, because we're not sure we can use it for rent, we're not sure we can use it to upgrade a building. There's some clarification we need on it. So until then, we're going to go ahead and collect it and then tuck it away, and hopefully it'll prove that we can use it. Good.
Well, this is one that I think Representative Keith English came back and talked a little bit about when he gave his updated legislative report. Then we had ordinance amending Section 505, the International Plumbing Code. deleting a section, materials, joints, and connections to allow for plastic water supply piping. Explain what residents are going to be able to do now.
Well, this has been going on for years with the city of Florissant. We're one of the few municipalities in the county that have not passed this, even though it's in international codes now that you can use plastic PVC piping for indoor plumbing, basically. With the advent of some of the newer materials, in essence, everybody's heard of this PEX piping and might have seen it. It's a red color and a blue color. Red for hot, blue for cold. It's a continuous pipe that can be bent and shaped in lots of different ways and is very, very economical to buy. It makes ease of installation very easily. The fittings are a mechanical style fitting that are very solid. This pipe is being used all across the country, and like I said,
but it wasn't being used in Florissant.
But it wasn't being used in Florissant. Well, the problem we had in Florissant, and a lot of people have a problem with it, is a lot of our buildings being built early on, a lot of the electrical grounding is done through the water pipes. So the electrical box that's in your house might have its grounding cable attached to your metal pipes, your copper pipes, inside the house, which then go outside the house and under the ground, and that's how you ground an electric. That's how it's grounded. Well, when you change that over to plastic, or even put a piece of plastic in place of some of that copper, you interrupt that grounding. So now you may not have a proper ground. So with the understanding that we've done, we're going to have to do a lot of education with people when they do apply for to use these plastic pipes, of making them understand that they're going to have to get proper grounding and really look at their grounding system and make sure that it's not going to interrupt that. That we may have to get some electricians involved, and it may not be as cost effective as they think it is. Although it's really to deter the copper thieves. That's the main is what we're having. Not only this community, but a lot of communities are having problems with the copper thefts. People coming in the vacant houses and stealing all the copper out. Well, obviously they're not going to steal plastic pipe. It has no value whatsoever. So that's the idea again with this too, is allow homeowners, rental companies, landlords to start using some of this plastic pipe. So.
Good. Okay. Any council announcements? What's going on in Ward 8?
Really, it's kind of quiet right now. Really no major developments going on. The Plasma Madrid thing is still an ongoing process. We just continue to see small leaps and bounds on that, and hopefully that'll start rolling soon. But for right now, it's just making small baby steps.
Okay.
So we'll see what goes on with that. I think overall, I think the city itself is just, we're seeing leaps and bounds. I mean, now with the Culvers, they have announced their groundbreaking is going to be September 4th. That they're going to break ground on that piece of property right down by St. Ferdinand Park. With the announcement tonight also, the mayor announced that Sweetie Pies is going to open a restaurant here in the city of Florissant, location to be determined, but that'll be another exciting little restaurant. And there's some other things that are in the works as well, so it's a kind of a stay tuned and see what happens. But yeah, it's kind of fun to watch that actually the city of Florissant, we're kind of moving forward. You know, you would have thought, and I was actually kind of scared with the things that were going on over in Ferguson lately, that economic development might take a hit. Well, it probably will, but at least in the short term, it really hasn't. All our folks are still coming. Culver's still committed. Sweetie Pies is still committed. Some of the other restaurants that have said they're wanting to come are still committed. We haven't really lost anybody.
Good.
So.
Well, it's nice to drive down Lindbergh and see the construction and the development, the redevelopment of some of our plazas, the facelifts that we're getting. It's good to see a kind of a busy 2014.
There is. Hopefully it will be, and hopefully it'll just continue right into 15 and 16 and just continue on. So. Well said.
Well said. Thanks, Mark, for your input in today's meeting. We appreciate that.
You're welcome, as always.
And thank you for watching. I'm Russell Inman. This has been Council Action, and we'll see you next time.